The biliary apparatus includes structures which conveys the liver bile and gallbladder bile into the second part of the duodenum. This biliary apparatus is having two parts, the intrahepatic part and extrahepatic part. The intrahepatic part of the biliary apparatus includes the bile canaliculi, canals of Herring, the bile ductules, and right and left hepatic ducts. These bile canaliculi form a polygonal network around individual hepatocytes except near the surface. At the periphery of the lobule, these bile canaliculi unite and form the canals of Herring. The bile ductules run into the interlobular space. Near the porta hepatis, these bile ductules converge, unite and form the right and left hepatic duct. This right and left hepatic duct drains the bile from physiological right and the left lobes of the liver. The biliary apparatus is also known as excretory apparatus of the liver, and its extrahepatic part includes the common hepatic duct, gallbladder, cystic duct, and common bile duct. The common hepatic duct is formed by the union of right and left hepatic ducts near the right end of porta hepatis. After formation, it runs downwards for about 3 cm and joined on its right side at an acute angle by the cystic duct to form the common bile duct. Its length is about 3 cm and its caliber is about 4 mm. The accessory hepatic ducts are present in about 15% of cases. They usually arise from the right lobe of liver and terminate either into the common hepatic duct or gallbladder or into the upper part of the bile duct. These accessory hepatic ducts are responsible for the oozing of bile after cholecystectomy. That's why it is always advised to put the drain after the surgery. The next component of the extrahepatic part of the biliary apparatus is a gallbladder, which is a pear-shaped reservoir of bile situated in the fossa for the gallbladder. This fossa is located on the inferior surface of the right lobe of liver. It extends from the right end of the porta hepatis to the inferior border of the liver. The gallbladder is about 7 to 10 cm long, 3 cm broad at its base or its widest part, and its capacity is about 30 to 50 ml. The gallbladder is divided into 3 parts, which are the fundus, body, and neck. The fundus of the gallbladder projects beyond the level of inferior border of the liver as shown in the previous diagram. It is located in the angle between the lateral border of rectus abdominis and ninth costal cartilage. It is entirely surrounded by peritoneum, related posteriorly to the beginning of this transverse colon and anteriorly to the anterior abdominal wall. The body of the gallbladder lies in the fossa for the gallbladder in the liver. Its upper end is narrow and becomes continuous with the neck of the gallbladder. Its superior surface is devoid of peritoneum and it is adherent to the fossa for the gallbladder in the liver. Inferior surface of the body is covered by the peritoneum and it is related with the beginning of the transverse colon as well as first and second part of the duodenum. The neck is the narrow upper end of gallbladder. It first runs anterosuperiorly and then runs posterior-inferiorly to become continuous with the cystic duct. The junction of the neck with the cystic duct is marked by a constriction. Superiorly, the neck is attached to the liver by the loose areolar tissue. Cystic vessels are also embedded in this loose areolar tissue. Inferiorly, the neck is related to the first part of the duodenum. The posteromedial wall of the neck is dilated outward to form a pouch which is called as Hartmann's pouch. The portion of the neck which gives attachment to this Hartmann's pouch is also known as isthmus. The gallstone may lodge in this Hartmann's pouch. The important functions of the gallbladder. The first one, it stores and concentrates the bile, which is 10 times more than the liver bile. Second thing, it reduces the alkalinity of the hepatic bile. Third thing, it equalizes the ductal biliary pressure. And fourth thing, the surgical removal of the gallbladder does not affect the function of the liver and hence it is indispensable. The next component of the extrahepatic part of the biliary apparatus is the cystic duct. It is about 3 to 4 cm long, begins at the neck of the gallbladder, runs downwards, backwards and to the left, ends by joining the common hepatic duct at an acute angle, and by joining with the common hepatic duct it forms the bile duct. The mucous membrane of the cystic duct forms a series of 5 to 12 crescentic folds arranged spirally to form a spiral wall of the hyster. The next component of the biliary apparatus is bile duct. It is formed by the union of cystic duct and common hepatic duct near the porta hepatis. This bile duct is about 8 cm long and 6 mm diameter. Bile duct is having 4 parts. This one is known as supraduodenal part, which lies above the first part of the duodenum. The second part, which lies behind this first part of duodenum, is known as retroduodenal part. This one is third part, known as infraduodenal part, and this one is fourth part, which lies inside the wall of duodenum. That's why it is known as intraduodenal part. The supraduodenal part runs downwards and backwards in the free margin of lesser omentum. The retroduodenal part lies behind the first part of duodenum. The infraduodenal part lies below the first part of duodenum and behind or embedded in the head of pancreas. Near the middle portion of the left side of second part of duodenum, the bile duct comes in contact with the pancreatic duct and runs in the wall of duodenum. The part which runs in the wall of duodenum is known as intraduodenal part. The supraduodenal part is related anteriorly to the liver, posteriorly to the portal vein, and to the left it is related with the hepatic artery. The retroduodenal part is related anteriorly to the first part of duodenum. Posteriorly it is related with the inferior vena cava, and to the left it is related with this gastroduodenal artery. The infraduodenal part is related anteriorly with the head of the pancreas, and posteriorly it is related with the inferior vena cava. As we have discussed that the infraduodenal part lies in the groove, lies embedded in the groove, or it lies just behind the head of the pancreas. That's why anteriorly it is related with the head of pancreas. The course of the bile duct is oblique through the wall of duodenum. In the wall of duodenum, the bile duct and pancreatic duct unite and form a hepatopancreatic ampulla or ampulla of Vater. The distal constricted end of the ampulla opens at the summit of major duodenal papilla, which lies about 8 to 10 cm distal to the pylorus. There are three sets of sphincters which are related to the bile and pancreatic duct. They are collectively called as sphincter of Oddi. It includes the sphincter choledochus, sphincter pancreaticus, and sphincter ampullae, or the sphincter of Oddi proper. Sphincter of ampullae is also known as sphincter of Oddi proper. Out of these three sets, the sphincter choledochus is nothing but the ring of smooth muscle which surrounds the terminal part of bile duct just before it joins with the pancreatic duct. This sphincter is always present. It normally keeps the lower part or lower end of the bile duct closed. As a result, the bile from the liver keeps accumulating in the gallbladder, and also it undergoes considerable concentration inside the gallbladder. But when the food enters the duodenum, especially fatty meal, this sphincter opens up and bile stored in the gallbladder is poured inside the duodenum. The sphincter which surrounds the terminal part of the pancreatic duct is known as sphincter pancreaticus, and it is usually not always present. And the third sphincter which surrounds the hepatopancreatic ampulla or ampulla of Vater is known as sphincter ampullae or sphincter of Oddi proper. Sphincter choledochus is also known as sphincter of Boyden. There could be some variation in the formation and termination of the bile duct. The bile duct is usually formed by the union of the cystic and common hepatic duct near the porta hepatis. But this union, instead of near the porta hepatis, it could happen behind the first part of duodenum or behind the head of pancreas. This is first variation. The secondly, normally cystic ducts joins the common hepatic duct at an acute angle on the right side. But as a variation, cystic duct passes in front or behind the common hepatic duct and joins with it from its left side. This is second variation. Thirdly, accessory cystic duct may arise from the common hepatic or the right hepatic duct. Fourthly, cystic duct may be absent and the neck of gallbladder opens directly into the common hepatic duct. Sometimes accessory hepatic ducts may be present and opens into the gallbladder. Usually, bile duct unites with the pancreatic duct and forms the ampulla of Vater, which runs through the wall of duodenum and terminates near the summit of major duodenal papilla. But as a variation, this ampulla may be formed outside the wall of duodenum. In such case, the bile duct and pancreatic duct open separately in the ampulla. In about 30% of cases, ampulla does not form at all. In such case, again bile duct and pancreatic duct open separately at the major duodenal papilla. These two are the variations in the termination of the bile duct. The biliary apparatus is supplied arterial blood by mainly three arteries: the cystic artery, which forms the major source of the arterial blood, the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery, and the right hepatic artery. As we have told that the cystic artery forms the chief source of the blood supply. It is distributed to the gallbladder, the cystic duct, the hepatic duct, and the upper part of bile duct. The middle part of the bile duct is supplied by the branches of the right hepatic artery, and the lower part of the bile duct is supplied by the branches of superior pancreaticoduodenal arteries. The cystic artery arises from the right hepatic artery, passes behind the common hepatic and cystic ducts, and reaches the upper surface of the neck of the gallbladder, where it divides into superficial and deep branches. The venous drainage of the biliary apparatus from the different parts we will discuss one by one. The superior surface of the gallbladder is drained by the veins which enters the liver through the fossa for gallbladder, and ultimately they join the hepatic veins. So the superior surface ultimately drains into the hepatic veins. The rest of the gallbladder is drained by cystic veins, which open into the right branch of the portal vein, and the lower part of the bile duct drains into the portal vein. The lymphatics from the gallbladder, cystic duct, common hepatic duct, and the upper part of the bile duct drain into the cystic nodes or into the nodes on the anterior border of epiploic foramen. The cystic nodes lies in the angle between the cystic and common hepatic ducts, and they are constantly enlarged in cholecystitis, whereas lymphatics from the lower part of the bile duct drain into the lower hepatic and upper pancreaticosplenic lymph nodes. The nerve supply to the biliary apparatus is by two plexuses, the cystic plexus and the nerve plexus over superior pancreaticoduodenal artery. The cystic plexus of nerves supply the gallbladder, cystic duct, common hepatic duct, and the upper part of bile duct, whereas lower part of the bile duct is supplied by the plexus of nerves over superior pancreaticoduodenal artery. The parasympathetic nerves are motor to the musculature of the biliary apparatus and inhibitory to the sphincters, whereas sympathetic nerves are motor to the sphincters and they are having vasomotor effect. The pain from the gallbladder is referred to the can be referred to the epigastrium through the vagus nerve. It can be referred to the inferior angle of the right scapula through the sympathetic nerves, or it can be referred to the right shoulder via phrenic nerve. The important applied aspect of the biliary apparatus, we will start with the obstructive jaundice. When the passage of the bile into the duodenum is blocked completely or partially, it leads to biliary obstruction, which ultimately results in the obstructive jaundice. The obstruction may be intrahepatic or extrahepatic. The important cause is being the gallstone, which may slip down into the bile duct, and the second one is the cancer of the head of pancreas, which may compress the bile duct. In such cases, the bile pigment will not reach the duodenum, so the feces will be light colored. Instead of reaching the duodenum, bile pigment will reach into the blood, which will cause jaundice, and these pigments are excreted into the urine, leading to the dark colored urine. So, the combination of light colored stool with dark colored urine is seen in obstructive jaundice. If this is associated with the episodes of pain, it is likely due to the gallstone, and if it is associated with weight loss, it is likely due to the cancer of the head of pancreas. The inflammation of the gallbladder is known as cholecystitis. In cholecystitis, the patient complains of pain in the right hypochondriac region. Pain may radiate into the inferior angle of right scapula or right shoulder or into the epigastrium. In cholecystitis, when the finger is placed just below the costal margin at the tip of ninth costal cartilage, the patient feels sharp pain during the inspiration. He winces a catch in his breath, and this is referred as the Murphy's sign. When the stones form in the gallbladder, this condition is called as cholelithiasis. It typically occurs in the fat, fertile female of 40 years age. This stone is responsible for the spasmodic pain, severe spasmodic pain, which is known as biliary colic. In such cases, Murphy's sign is of great diagnostic value. The gallbladder is related to the duodenum. So, this gallstone may penetrate the wall of the gallbladder and duodenum to get inside the lumen of the duodenum. This stone travels through the coils of small intestine and may block narrow ileocecal junction, leading to intestinal obstruction. Along with the lymphoid tissue and bone marrow, the gallbladder also carries the most significant lesions of the typhoid fever, and the carrier state may be due to the persistence of the typhoid bacilli in the gallbladder. The procedure to visualize the bile duct from the duodenum is called as ERCP, endoscopic retrograde cholangiopancreatography, and the operation for the removal of gallbladder is known as cholecystectomy. During cholecystectomy, the surgeon must be aware of the numerous variations that may exist in the extrahepatic biliary apparatus, which we have already discussed. One of the most important law is known as Courvoisier's law, which states that the extrinsic obstruction of the bile duct, like pressure by the carcinoma of the head of pancreas, only leads to dilatation of the gallbladder, whereas intrinsic obstruction of the bile duct by the gallstone does not lead to the dilatation of the gallbladder because of fibrosis. This is called as Courvoisier's law. Today's last competency is Calott's triangle, which is a triangular space formed laterally by the cystic duct, medially by the common hepatic duct, and superiorly segment 5 of the liver. Contents of the Kellogg's triangle are the cystic artery, cystic lymph nodes of Lund, and autonomic nerve fibers reaching to the gallbladder. The clinical importance of the Kellogg's triangle is that it helps the surgeon to identify, divide, and ligate the cystic artery and the cystic duct, whereas cystic lymph nodes are the most important lymphatic route for the drainage from the gallbladder.